A rift in the mesosphere causes a deadly ice fog to engulf the world. How can humanity survive this catastrophic event? Let us find out in the 2010 science fiction film Arctic Blast. One day, a total solar eclipse happens, and this phenomenon is being monitored by the International Climate Research Organization in Australia, both by its Hobart Field Station and research vessel North Star, which is located at sea. A man named Alex from the North Star contacts the atmospheric physicist Jack from the field station. Alex informs him that everything is pretty normal and going so far with the eclipse. However, the ozone layer is currently deteriorating. Shortly after, Jack notices that their scan states that the temperature of the mesosphere just dropped 20 degrees. At this time, a hole seems to be forming in the Earth's atmosphere. Meanwhile, at school, Jack's daughter Naomi and her friends, along with their schoolmates, go out of their classrooms to witness the solar eclipse. After the event, the teachers instruct the students to go back inside their rooms. While most of them have fun, Naomi and her friends think that the eclipse is boring. Going back to Jack, he receives a call from his wife Emma, reminding him that they are supposed to meet their divorce lawyer today. Admitting that he forgot it, Jack apologizes to Emma and swears he will meet them as soon as possible. Before he leaves, Jack reminds Alex and Zoe to constantly monitor the temperature drop in the mesosphere. Afterward, Alex tells the captain of the vessel that they should head back to Hobart now. However, cold air flashes from above, down to the ocean just outside where the North Star vessel is. Looking at the monitor, Alex notices the sudden drop in temperature, but he doesn't have an idea that the cold air is already engulfing their ship. And when Alex finally realizes what is happening, it's already too late and he freezes to death. Concurrently, Jack is on his way to Emma and the lawyer when his boss from Philadelphia, USA, named Walter calls him. According to him, he has been waiting for Jack's report. In turn, Jack reasons that they have encountered unexpected data, but he promises that it will not take a long time before he finishes it. Then, he pretends to be going on a dead signal zone and fakes being choppy until he ends the call. After a while, Jack finally meets with his wife and their divorce lawyer. During the interview, Jack points out that he's only going through this because Emma is the one who wants the divorce. Hearing this, Emma insists that she's tired of moving from country to country, saying that they have already been in 6 different countries in just 12 years. Now that they're back in her hometown and Naomi is finally settling in, she doesn't want to leave anymore. Jack pleads with her to give him more time in sorting things out so he can pull himself out of the new project in Beijing. Yet, Emma heard all of it before and it turned out to be a lie, so she is tired of Jack always choosing his job over them. Some time later, Jack goes home, just in time when Naomi is about to leave. He offers to give her a ride, but she declines. At this time, Jack tries to stop her and talk to her, knowing that something is not right between the two of them. However, Naomi doesn't want to talk because she's still mad that he forgot her 16th birthday, and she also knows about her parents' divorce. She blames Jack and calls him selfish. The next day, Zoe finds the sleeping Jack in his office. Jack just finished the report that Winslow is asking, and he also wants to avoid Emma at their house. Right then, he receives a call and Zoe answers it for him. Handing it to Jack, she says that it's Brent from the emergency response team. After their conversation, he and Zoe quickly go where Brent is. There, they see the North Star vessel crash into the port and everyone on the ship has died. However, the crash is not the one that killed them and the actual cause of death is still unknown to them, except there seems to be tissue damage found in the bodies of the deceased. Hearing this, Jack asks Brent to let him and Zoe enter the ship, thinking that Alex might have left something on a log that can explain what happened. Inside, Zoe comments that the whole place is damp and a hard drive they find is also drenched in water. At this time, Jack calls Walter and informs him of the unfortunate event and the details about it. The two both don't have any idea as to what truly happened. Before ending the call, Walter reminds Jack to always keep him posted with the updates. Just then, the reality of Alex's death finally sinks into them and Zoe breaks down crying. Heading back to Hobart Station, they do everything they can to salvage anything they can restore in Alex's hard drive. Most of the files are corrupted, but they manage to get a weather satellite image in which Jack sees a rift in the ozone. Then, he receives a call from Emma, who turns out to be a forensic pathologist assigned to the autopsy of the victims of the North Star incident. She tells Jack to come to her lab immediately as she found something that he needs to see. Due to that, Jack orders Zoe to clone the drive and correlate its data from the weather satellites in the area where North Star is stationed. After a while, Jack arrives and Emma informs him that she found ice crystals in the crew's bodies. Showing him a sample cell in the microscope, Emma thinks that the crew froze somewhere between 80 to 100 degrees below zero, and they froze rapidly, that it seemed like they died not knowing what hit them. Just then, he receives a call from Zoe, who informs him that the National Weather is tracking a cold front that they picked up a few hours ago. But what shocks her is that the coordinates of the cold front match the position where the North Star was. Hearing this, Jack orders her to run a simulation based on their data of mesospheric ozone to see if there is a rift so they can find out what they are dealing with. Later on, Jack goes back to the station and calls Walter. According to him, when they copy the data from Alex's damaged hard drive, they find several anomalies. Using this, they run a simulation in which they discover that the solar eclipse caused an unexpected impact on the mesosphere. This caused a drastic drop in temperatures, triggering an increase in air density. The ozone serves as a shield between them and the mesosphere, which becomes too weak because of the damage caused by man-made pollution. As a result, the atmospheric pressure created a rift in the ozone, and the mesospheric air that leaked through the rift created a funnel down to the Pacific Ocean. With everything they got so far, Jack suspects that it's a deadly cold front that killed Alex and the others. And if this rift will not be closed immediately, it'll have a catastrophic event at hand as the air is negative 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Wanting to make sure to make the right decision, Walter asks Jack if he can 100% guarantee him that his claims are factual. Yet, Jack says he's not because most of the data from North Star was destroyed. But he emphasizes that he will be able to double-check his findings if he can access other satellites. Because of that, Walter says they cannot announce it to the public at the moment to avoid uncertain panic due to uncertain claims. He then orders Jack to send him every data they have so they can help him look further into it. After the call, Jack just cannot sit without doing anything, so he hacks one of the military satellites to start scanning the ozone to see if he's right. Then he meets with Brent and warns him about the incoming catastrophe. However, just like Walter, he cannot also make a decision based on theory. With no one he can turn to, Jack decides to pick up Naomi at school and tells Emma to get her parents to meet him at the station. Confused, Emma says there is no news report about a cold front hitting Hobart. Jack insists that the news is wrong and that they should move immediately before it's too late. Arriving at Naomi's school, he asks one of her classmates where his daughter is. As it turns out, Naomi and her friends cut classes to go to a nearby beach to surf. Hearing this, he quickly drives to the said beach. Meanwhile, Naomi and her friends just arrive and Franny and Jared change into their swimming and surfing suits. Naomi, on the other hand, seems not to be in the mood. A few moments later, they see a fog coming their way. At first, they are amazed by what they're seeing, but they immediately feel the coldness afterward. All of a sudden, Jack arrives and screams at them, telling them to get away from the water. Unfortunately, it's already too late for Jared as he is already caught up by the cold front. Seeing her boyfriend die, Franny tries to run but gets frozen as well. Left with no other choice, Jack and Naomi run into his car and they race against the cold front. While on the run, he calls Brent and alerts him of the situation, informing him that 2 teenagers just died because of the cold front. Hearing how dire the situation is, Brent calls Barca of the Australian Emergency Response Center and alerts him of the incoming disaster. Receiving the information from Brent, Barca orders everyone to send a bulletin to alert the public of the cold front that will hit the country. In the other part of Hobart, Emma reaches her parents' place and tells them to pack immediately because a cold front is coming. The old couple is clueless and they think that it's just a normal cold front, saying they have enough firewood to keep them warm until it passes by. Emma tries to explain that this cold front is deadly, but her father thinks that people are just overreacting to it. Just then, she receives a call from Jack, saying that Naomi is already safe with him. However, he doesn't expect that the cold front will be moving rapidly, so he advises Emma to just stay with her parents and collect all the firewood and source of heat that they can get. Emma asks how long the cold front will last, but Jack is not yet sure about it. According to him, as long as the rift in the ozone is not repaired, it won't stop. Meanwhile, the broadcast of the incoming cold front finally airs on TV. Because it's currently spring, people know that this phenomenon is not a joke. This causes the people of Australia to start preparing and hoarding all the things that can provide heat so they can survive the incoming cold front. In Philadelphia, Tammy tells Walter that the cold front that Jack suspected already hit Australia. Due to that, Walter tells her to assemble a meeting with other scientists so they can form a way to address the problem. Tammy suggests that he should add Jack to the committee since he's the one that has the most knowledge about it. However, Walter declines, thinking that Jack will only complicate things. Going back to Jack, he's still on the road when Zoe calls him. She states that the military satellite he hacked found the exact location of the ozone rift. It also shows that the mesosphere is feeding the cold front with cold air. Jack asked her to send their findings to ICRO main office and the Emergency Response Center so they can all be coordinated. Then he asks how she is, to which she assures him that she's fine. A little later, Zoe checks her blood sugar level as she turns out to be diabetic. When she finds out that her sugar level is getting low, she looks for her insulin but cannot find it in her bag. Not long after, the cold front finally hits Hobart, damaging different properties and killing all people that are unfortunately caught in its way. And to add to the list of misfortune, a plane that is about to land in Hobart crashes because of the cold front. Even the not sealed places like the bar are not safe from the ice fog, as the bar owner just sits there, accepting her death with a glass of drink. As they watch the news about the different casualties caused by the cold front, Emma's parents finally realize the seriousness of the situation. At the same time, Jack and Naomi finally reach the station and they run inside just in time before the cold front engulfs the place. Inside, Zoe greets them and hands them jackets. When the power suddenly goes out, Naomi worries, but Jack assures her that the generator will power up the place and that they will stay safe and warm inside the station. Then, he calls Emma to inform her that he and Naomi are already at the station. He also alerts them that the cold front will hit them any minute now, so he reminds them not to go out anymore. Upon giving the phone to Naomi so she can talk to her mother, the call gets cut off, meaning that the cell towers are already down because of the ice fog. Just as the ice fog hits the house, Emma and her parents hear a crying noise outside. Acting quickly, Emma lets the girl in and they put her in front of the fireplace. Inside, the girl looks for her brother, saying that she and her brother were supposed to be together. Realizing what just happened to the poor girl, Emma sadly tells her that she is alone when she knocks on their door. Then she looks for her medicine, to which Emma quickly looks at her clothes. And to her surprise, she finds a bottle of pills for heart medication. But she cannot give it to the girl just yet because this shock could kill her. And as expected, the poor girl dies later on. At the emergency response center, Barca receives a video call from Brent. According to him, he and his team managed to set up evacuation centers, but not all of those places have generators, so he doesn't know how long the people can survive the cold. Worse, the number of casualties is likely to skyrocket as time goes by. Later that night, Jack runs another simulation in an attempt to close the rift. Using the data they salvaged from Alex's hard drive, Jack thinks he discovers a way to address the problem. Due to that, he calls Walter to inform him of his findings. However, Walter says they already have a solution to the problem and are currently preparing it. Jack asks what it is, and he explains that they will release 300 weather balloons that are carrying magnesium particles under the ozone layer. He and his team believe that by blowing up the magnesium, the explosion will ionize the ozone, further closing in the rift. Hearing this, Jack says it will not work. He insists that the best course of action is hitting the rift from above to stimulate the mesosphere into creating new ozone through lightning. Yet, Walter already made up his mind and tells Jack to stay put and keep his family safe. Regardless, Jack still wants to continue running the simulation even without Walter and ICRO's support. To make matters worse, Zoe detects that more ozone rifts appear in different parts of the world. Looking at the scans, Jack says that the first rift must have caused a ripple that weakened the other part of the ozone, resulting in more rifts. Also, these new rifts are causing the same ripples that may result in more rifts if they don't close immediately. As of now, the new rifts just appear in Japan, Russia, England, and China. Meanwhile, Walter contacts the Emergency Response Center and shares with them the details of how they will close the rift. With their help, they will supervise the launch of the weather balloons while the military will provide the jets that will set off the explosion. Later on, they finally receive the report of new rifts appearing in other parts of the world. And because these countries have no idea what they are facing, they suffered more casualties. At this time, the center is finally engulfed by the ice fog. In Philadelphia, Tammy insists that they should include Jack in addressing the problem, at least as a backup plan. But Walter still doesn't want to do so, saying that their simulation shows an 85% success rate that they will close the rift. After the necessary preparations, the Emergency Response Center and ICRO are ready to launch the weather balloons into the air in an hour. However, due to a new rift opening near the aircraft carrier where the fighter jets will be coming from, they need to do the launch now. Sadly, this approach of Walter barely closes the rift, proving it to be ineffective. Because of that, everyone becomes hopeless. And to his shock, Walter also receives a call that his wife, who's on a cruise ship, dies due to the cold front. Luckily for everyone, Tammy turns out to be helping Jack all along by sending the data from Philadelphia to him, which causes him to formulate a more effective approach to closing the rift. Talking to Walter, Jack says he needs high-altitude rockets that are loaded with ammonium nitrate to cause enough constant lighting activity to create new ozone. Hearing this, Walter humbles himself and apologizes to him, saying that he should have let Jack into the committee earlier. Some time later, Zoe suddenly collapses because of her low sugar level. Jack and Naomi attend to her, and upon discovering that she has no reserved insulin, Jack orders Naomi to not let Zoe fall asleep while he goes out to get insulin for her. Miraculously, his truck starts even after being engulfed in ice, and he quickly heads into the town. Arriving in a pharmaceutical store, the owner sneaks on him and tries to attack him, thinking that he will loot his store. Acting quickly, Jack disarms the owner, gets the insulin, and leaves. While all of this is happening, Walter calls the station. And with Jack's absence and Zoe being incapacitated, Naomi is the one who answers the call. After she explains who she is to Walter, he orders her to upload the calculations to the ICRO system so they can conduct the launch as soon as possible. Following Walter's instructions, she begins uploading the file, but it's suddenly interrupted when the generator that's powering the station shuts down. By good fortune, Jack arrives shortly after and injects the insulin into Zoe. After that, he fixes the generator, bringing the power back into the station. Then, he immediately goes to the computer and feels relieved that they didn't lose the calculations. Sending it to Walter, he orders Tammy to inform the military that they will conduct the launching now. Everyone is feeling nervous, knowing that this is their last chance of closing the rift. And as luck would have it for them, Jack's method is effective as the explosion creates a series of lightning that eventually leads to the sealing of the ozone rift. Everyone rejoices as they finally stop the surge of the cold front. This method is then copied by other nations to seal the rifts that open in their respective borders. Finally, humanity has seen the sun rise again. The movie ends with Jack and Naomi going to Emma, where she and Jack reconcile and decide not to have a divorce anymore. Arctic Blast has a pretty interesting plot that barely manages to pull it off. The conflict of having a new ice age dawning on humanity is very effective, and the ways that the characters address it are pretty smart and sensible. This movie also has brilliant characters that are needed for this type of apocalyptic movie. However, the family drama that was put into the plot is not effective and is really forced at times. Overall, Arctic Blast is a decent apocalyptic movie that you should watch.